Hello class, welcome to Management 3310, Chapter 9 lecture of the book. Chapter 9 is Management Strategies. In this chapter, we'll look at an important part of the planning that managers do, developing organizational strategies. Every organization has strategies for doing what it's in business to do, and managers must manage those strategies effectively. Focus on the following learning objectives as you read and study in this chapter. First objective is define strategic management and explain why it's important. Number two, explain what managers do during the 6 steps of the strategic management process. Know how to identify your own personal strengths and weaknesses and deal with them, and develop your skill at strategic planning. The third objective is describe the 3 types of corporate strategies. Number four, describe competitive advantage and the competitive strategies organizations use to get it. And finally, number five, discuss current strategic management issues. Strategic management is what managers do to develop the organization's strategies. It's an important task involving all the basic management functions: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. What are organization strategies? They are plans for how the organization will do whatever it's in business to do. How will the business compete successfully, and how will it attract and satisfy its customers in order to achieve its goals? One term often used in strategic management is business model, which simply is how a company is going to make money. It focuses on 2 things. First, whether customers will value what the company is providing, and second, whether the company can make any money doing it. Why is strategic management so important? There are 3 reasons. The most significant one is that it can make a difference in how well an organization performs. In other words, it appears that organizations that use strategic management do have higher levels of performance, and that fact makes it pretty important for managers. Another reason it's important has to do with the fact that managers in organizations of all types and sizes face continually changing situations. They cope with this uncertainty by using the strategic management process to examine relevant factors and decide what actions to take. Finally, strategic management is important because organizations are complex and diverse. Each part needs to work together toward achieving the organization's goals. Strategic management helps do this. Although the first 4 steps describe the planning that must take place, implementation and evaluation are just as important. Even the best strategies can fail if management doesn't implement or evaluate them properly. So here you have the strategic management process. Exhibit 9.1 illustrates the 6-step process, which encompasses strategy, planning, implementation, and evaluation. First, you're going to identify the organization's current mission, goals, and strategies. Following, then you're going to perform a SWOT analysis that encompasses strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. On the external analysis, your opportunities and threats, and on internal analysis, you're going to analyze strengths and weaknesses. Then you're going to formulate strategies, implement them, and evaluate the results. Every organization needs a mission, a statement of its purpose. Defining the mission forces managers to identify what it's in business to do, but sometimes that mission statement can be too limiting. So what should a mission statement include? Exhibit 9.2 describes some typical components. For example, component for customers, the question is, who are the first customers? And it just goes down the line on this that illustrates here on this exhibit. So step 2 is doing an external analysis. Analyzing that environment is a critical step in the strategic management process. Managers do an external analysis so they know, for instance, what the competition is doing, what pending legislation might affect this organization, or what the labor supply is like in the location where it operates. In an external analysis, managers should examine the economic, demographic, political, legal, social, cultural, technological, and global components to see trends and changes. Once they have analyzed the environment, managers need to pinpoint opportunities that the organization can exploit and threats that it must counteract or buffer against. Opportunities are positive trends in the external environment, and threats are the negative trends. To repeat that, opportunities are the positive trends in the external environment, and threats are the negative trends. Now we move to the internal analysis, which provides important information about organization's specific resources and capabilities. An organization's resources are its assets, financial, physical, human, and intangible, that it uses to develop, manufacture, and deliver products to its customers. They're what the organization has. On the other hand, its capabilities are its skills and abilities in doing the work activities needed in its business. That's the how it does its work. The major value creating capabilities of the organization are known as its core competencies. Both resources are and core competencies are determine the organization's competitive weapons. After completing an internal analysis, managers should be able to identify organizational strengths and weaknesses. Any activities the organization does well or any unique resources that it has are called strengths. Weaknesses are activities the organization does do well or resources it needs but doesn't possess. The combined external and internal analysis are called the SWOT analysis. An analysis of the organization's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. After completing the SWOT analysis, managers are ready to formulate appropriate strategies. That is, strategies that exploit an organizational strength and external opportunities, buffer or protect the organization from external threats, or correct critical weaknesses. As managers formulate strategies, they should consider the realities of the external environment and the available resources and capabilities in order to design strategies that will help an organization achieve its goals. The three main types of strategies managers will formulate include corporate, competitive, and functional. We'll describe each shortly. Once strategies are formulated, they must be implemented no matter how effectively an organization has planned the strategies. Performance will suffer if the strategies are implemented properly. The final step in the strategic management process is evaluating results. How effective have the strategies been at helping the organization reach its goals? What adjustments are necessary? As we said earlier, organizations use three types of strategies: corporate, competitive, and functional. As illustrated in Exhibit 9.3, top-level managers typically are responsible for corporate strategies, mid-level managers for competitive strategies, and lower-level managers for functional strategies. In this section, we'll look at corporate strategies. A corporate strategy is one that determines what business a company is in or wants to be in, and what it wants to do with those businesses. It's based on the mission and goals of the organization and the role that each business unit of the organization will play. To repeat that, a corporate strategy is one that determines what business a company is in or wants to be in and what it wants to do with those businesses. Organizations grow by using concentration, vertical integration, horizontal integration, or diversification. An organization that grows using concentration, focuses on its primary line of business and increases the number of products offered or markets served in the primary business. A company also might choose to grow by vertical integration either backwards, forward, or both. In backward vertical integration, the organization becomes its own supplier so that it can control its inputs. In horizontal integration, a company grows by combining with competitors. Finally, an organization can grow through diversification, either related or unrelated. Related diversification happens when a company combines with other companies in different but related industries. Unrelated diversification is when a company combines with firms in different and unrelated industries. Going on to stability and renewal strategies. Examples of a stability strategy include continuing to serve the same clients by offering the same product or service, maintaining market share, and sustaining the organization's current business operations. The organization doesn't grow, but doesn't fall behind either. Managers need to develop strategies called renewal strategies that address declining performance. The two main types of renewal strategies are retrenchment and turnaround strategies. When an organization's corporate strategy encompasses a number of businesses, managers can manage a collection or portfolio of businesses using a tool called a corporate portfolio matrix. This matrix provides a framework for understanding diverse businesses and helps managers establish priorities for allocating resources. The first portfolio matrix, the BCG matrix, was developed by Boston Consulting Group, hence the BCG, and introduced the idea that an organization's various businesses could be evaluated and plotted using a 2x2 matrix to identify which ones offered high potential and which were a drain on an organization's resources. The horizontal axis represents market share, low or high, and the vertical axis indicates anticipated market growth, low or high. A business unit is evaluated using a SWOT analysis and placed in one of the four categories listed below. The categories are stars, cash cows, question marks, or dogs. For a small organization in only one line of business or large organization that has not diversified into different products or markets, its competitive strategy describes how it will compete in its primary or main market. For organizations in multiple businesses, however, each business will have its own competitive strategy that defines its competitive advantage, the products or services it will offer, the customers it wants to reach, and the like. When an organization is in several different businesses, those single businesses that are independent and that have their own competitive strategies are referred to as strategic business units. Developing an effective competitive strategy requires an understanding of competitive advantage, which is what sets an organization apart. That is, it's its distinctive edge. That distinctive edge can come from the organization's core competencies by doing something that others cannot do or doing it better than others cannot do it. If a business is able to continuously improve the quality and reliability of its products, it may have a competitive advantage that can be taken away. Using design thinking means thinking in unusual ways about what the business is and how it's doing what's in business to do. Many organizations are making substantial investments in social media because it can provide a competitive advantage. Many important ideas in strategic management have come from the work of Michael Porter. One of his major contributions was explaining how managers can create a substantial competitive advantage. An important part of doing this is an industry analysis, which is done using the five forces model. The Porter's five forces models are threats of new entrants, threat of substitutes, bargaining power of buyers, bargaining power of suppliers, and current rivalry. In any industry, the five competitive forces just mentioned dictate the rules of competition. Together, these five forces determine industry attractiveness and profitability, which managers assess using the five factors listed. When an organization competes on the basis of having the lowest cost, which is cost or expenses, not prices, in its industry, it's following a cost leadership strategy. A low cost leader is highly efficient. Overhead is kept to a minimum, and the firm does everything it can do to cut costs. A company that competes by offering unique products or widely valued by customers is following a differentiating strategy. Differences might come from exceptionally high quality, extraordinary service, innovative design, technological capability, or an unusually positive brand image. Practically any successful consumer product or service can be identified as an example of the differentiation strategy. Differentiation strategy, sorry. Although these two competitive strategies are aimed at the broad market, the final type of competitive strategy, the focus strategy, involves a cost advantage or cost focus, or a differentiation advantage or differentiation focus in a narrow segment or niche. Segments can be based on product variety, customer type, distribution channel, or geographical location. What happens if an organization can't develop a cost or differentiation advantage? Porter called that being stuck in the middle and warned that's not a good place to be. An organization becomes stuck in the middle when its costs are too high to compete with the low cost leader, or when its products and services aren't differentiated enough to compete with the differentiator. Getting unstuck means choosing which competitive advantage to pursue, and then doing so by aligning resources, capabilities, and corporate competencies. We don't cover specific functional strategy in this book because you'll cover them in other business courses you're going to take. However, know that functional strategies is a strategy used by organizations' various functional departments to support the competitive strategy. By definition, top managers are ultimately responsible for every decision and action of every organizational employee. One important role that top manager sorry, one important role that top managers play is that of strategic leader. Organizational researchers study leadership in relation to strategic management because an organization's top managers must provide effective strategic leadership. That's the ability to anticipate, envision, maintain flexibility, think strategically, and work with others in the organization to initiate changes that will create a viable and valuable future for the organization. How can top managers provide effective strategic leadership? Eight key dimensions have been identified. Exhibit 9-4 is the effective strategic leadership model. These dimensions include determining the organization's purpose or vision, exploiting and maintaining the organization's core competencies, and developing the organization's human capital, creating and sustaining a strong organizational culture, creating and maintaining organizational relationships, reframing prevailing views by asking penetrating questions, and questioning assumptions, emphasizing ethical organizational decision and practices, and establishing appropriately balanced organizational controls. Each dimension encompasses an important part of the strategic management process. Strategic flexibility is the ability to recognize major external changes, to quickly commit resources, and to recognize when a strategic decision isn't working. Given the highly uncertain environment that managers face today, strategic flexibility seems absolutely necessary. Exhibit 9-5, which is a developing strategic flexibility, illustrates some of the techniques. Some of the techniques includes encourage leadership by making sure everyone is on the same page, keep resources fluid and move them as circumstances warrant, have the right mindset to explore and understand issues and challenges, know what's happening with strategies currently being used by monitoring and measuring results, encourage employees to be open about disclosing and sharing negative information, get new ideas and perspectives from outside the organization. This means that you might not have the answer, but somebody else will. So reaching out to somebody outside the organization will help. Have multiple alternatives when making strategic decisions and learn from your mistakes, which is pretty much what's your lessons learned. Managers use e-business strategies to develop a sustainable competitive advantage. Cost leaders can use e-business to lower cost in a variety of ways. For instance, it might use online bidding and order processing to eliminate the need for sales calls and decrease sales force expenses. It could use web-based inventory control systems that reduce storage costs, or it might use online testing and evaluation of job applicants. A differentiator needs to offer products or services that customers perceive and value as unique. For instance, a business might use internet-based knowledge systems to shorten customer response times, provide rapid online responses to service requests, or automate purchasing and payment systems so that customers have detailed status reports and purchasing histories. Finally, because the focuser targets a narrow market segment which customized products, it might provide chat rooms or discussion boards for customers to interact with others who have common interests. Design niche websites that target specific groups with specific interests, or use websites to perform standardized office functions such as payroll or budgeting. Having an effective customer communication system is an important customer service strategy. Managers should know what's going on with customers. They need to find out what customers liked and didn't like about their purchase encounter, from their interactions with employees to the experience with actual product or service. It's also important to let customers know if something is going on with the company that might affect future purchase decisions. Finally, an organization's culture is important to providing excellent customer service. This typically requires that employees be trained to provide exceptional customer service. Innovation strategies aren't necessarily focused on just the radical breakthrough products. They can include applying existing technologies to new uses. And organizations have successfully used both approaches. What type of innovation strategies do organizations need in today's environment? Those strategies should reflect their innovation philosophy, which is shaped by two strategic decisions: innovation emphasis and innovation timing. And organizations that first to bring product innovation to the market or to use new process innovation is called a first mover. Being a first mover has certain strategic advantages and disadvantages as shown in Exhibit 9.6. Here's Exhibit 9.9-6. As mentioned earlier, an organization that's first to bring a product to innovation to the market or to use a new process or innovation is called a first mover. Being a first mover has certain advantages strategic advantages and disadvantages as shown. So, in review of Chapter 9, the first objective is strategic management is what managers do to develop their organization's strategies. Strategies are the plans for how the organization will do whatever it's in business to do. How will it complete successfully, and how it will attract and satisfy its customers in order to achieve its goals. A business model is how a company is going to make money. Strategic management is important for three reasons. First, it makes a difference in how well organizations perform. Second, it's important for helping managers cope with continually changing situations. Finally, strategic management helps coordinate and focus employee efforts on what's important. Learning objective number 2 is the six steps in process in strategic management. The 6 steps in the strategic management process encompasses strategy planning, implementation, and evaluation. This includes the following: identify the current mission, goals, and strategies, do an external analysis, do an internal analysis. Step 2 and 3 are collectively also known as SWOT analysis. Formulate strategies, implement strategies, and evaluate strategies. Strengths are any activities the organization does well or its unique resources. Weaknesses are activities in the organization doesn't do well or resources it needs. Remember that opportunities are positive trends in the external environment, threats are the negative trends. In review of the third learning objective, a growth strategy is when an organization expands the number of markets served or products offered, either through current or new business. The types of growth strategies include concentration, vertical integration, which is backward or forward, horizontal integration, and diversification, which is related or unrelated. A stability strategy is when an organization makes no significant changes in what it's doing. Both renewal strategies, retrenchment, and turnaround, address organizational weaknesses leading to performance declines. The BCG matrix is a way to analyze a company's portfolio of business by looking at business market share and its industry anticipated growth rate. The 4 categories of the BCG matrix are cash cows, stars, question marks, and dogs. Reviewing the 4th learning objective, an organization's competitive advantage is what sets it apart. Its distinctive edge. A company's competitive advantage becomes the basis for choosing an appropriate competitive strategy. Porter's 5 forces model assesses the 5 competitive forces that dictate the rules of competition in an industry: threat of new entrants, threat of substitutes, bargaining power of buyers, bargaining power of suppliers, and current rivalry. Porter's 3 competitive strategies are as follows: cost leadership, which is competing on the basis of having the lowest cost in the industry; differentiation, which is competing on the basis of having unique products that are widely valued by customers; and focus, which is competing in a narrow segment with either a cost advantage or a differentiation advantage. Finally, the 5th learning objective. Managers face 3 current strategic management issues: strategic leadership, strategic flexibility, and important types of strategies for today's environment. Strategic leadership is the ability to anticipate, envision, maintain flexibility, think strategically, and work with others in the organization to initiate changes that will create a viable and valuable future for the organization and include 8 key dimensions. Strategic flexibility, that is, the ability to recognize major external environmental changes, to quickly commit to resources, and to recognize when a strategic decision isn't working. It is important because managers often face highly uncertain environments. Managers can use business strategies to reduce costs, to differentiate their firm's products and services, to target specific customer groups, or to lower costs by standardizing certain office functions. Another important e-business strategy is the clicks and bricks strategy, which combines online and traditional standalone locations. Strategies managers can use to become more customer oriented include giving customers what they want, communicating effectively with them, and having the culture that emphasizes customer service. Strategies managers can use to become more innovative include deciding their organization's innovation emphasis, which is the basic scientific research, product development, or process development, and its innovation timing, which is a first mover or a follower. So that's chapter 9. Thank you for your participation in the lecture, and stay tuned for the chapter 10 lecture. Until then, please check Blackboard like always for any updates or announcements, and make sure you complete the quiz for the chapter and send me a message with any concerns or questions. Thank you.